This is a Fox News alert. We are waiting for the president to give remarks at the Board of Peace meeting in Davos with plans to transform the Gaza Strip and bring an end to conflicts around the world.
Joining us now is Laura Blumenfeld. She is a Middle East analyst and senior fellow at the Philip Merrill Center for Strategic Studies at Johns Hopkins University. Thank you so much for joining us, Laura. Great to have you on this morning, especially given your area of expertise. Let's talk about Gaza first, because the president hopes that this Board of Peace will handle various world conflicts, but the main goal is starting in Gaza and having a transitional government be put in place there. So do you foresee that actually being something that is attainable and this board could lead to a positive outcome?
Well, I think the most important thing is this board really codifies American dominance in the world, starting in the Middle East. And as Donald Trump said, Gaza is our show. When he had some pushback from traditional allies, even like Israel. So the fact that he's owning it, I do think that it's a legacy issue for him, and even more importantly for his son-in-law Jared Kushner, who's sitting on that board and taking personal responsibility to see success.
We've got a 20-step plan on the table. You are an expert in the Middle East. What should this Board of Peace begin with first?
Well, the very first thing is disarm, disarm, disarm. And Donald Trump has been hammering that theme. He just said recently that if Hamas doesn't disarm, if it doesn't lay down its weapons, then they will be blown away. It's not quite clear whether he means that Israel will do the job or whether some, forces, the International Stabilization Force, which is led by an American general, Jeffers, will somehow oversee that process. But you can't really move forward with peace while the main opponents, enemies, are still carrying the weapons. We see that up in Lebanon with Hezbollah. You have a kind of hollowed out government. The Lebanese are trying to assert their authority. They certainly have responsibility. But as long as Hezbollah has the weapons, they have no authority. The same thing is true in Gaza, where Hamas still controls 85% of the population.
Hamas still controls 85% of the population in Gaza. And one of the main goals, and what President Trump has said needs to happen first, is for Hamas to rearm. Is that something that will happen? Or disarm, rather?
Well, again, this is a peace through strength president, and he aligns very closely with Prime Minister Netanyahu on that point. Both of them say they can do it either the easy way or the hard way. I think what President Trump is hoping for is with allies and partners like Qatar and Turkey, who are certainly hostile toward Israel, but close enough with Hamas that if he uses them as leverage on Hamas to strike deals, whether it means that the leadership of Hamas sitting in Gaza will self-deport, will leave the Strip. We've seen that in past conflicts with Israel and Lebanon when they were fighting PLO. They left Lebanon from Beirut to Tunisia. That kind of ended the conflict there. You could perhaps see some kind of success following that path. So I think that is the hope, by bringing potential spoilers and adversaries like Qatar and Turkey to a peace deal into the tent. They're going to keep them close so there'll be no mischief. I think the same reasoning, if you extend that and grow that metaphor, why are China and Russia being invited into this Board of Peace more broadly as the U.S. seeks to grow and expand the mission to a mandate for international security and peace around the world? It's the same thinking that, keep your friends close but enemies closer.
Okay, but what about our friends? What about our historical allies? France and a whole host of other countries are saying we are not going to join this board. Do you think they changed their mind at any point?
Well, it is striking the difference between the Sharm el-Sheikh summit, which announced the peace ceasefire in Gaza just a few months ago, and those sort of traditional allies, our transatlantic partners for the past 80 years, won't be standing there today at the signing. So that doesn't bode well, but success breeds friends, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, this is kind of an announcement of a new strategic solar system with Donald Trump as the sun, right? He is giving light and life to this whole process. If it's successful, I think other countries will sign on. There's a little bit of kind of near-death exhaustion by our traditional allies like France, the UK, some of those Nordic countries because of the issue with Greenland. So they're all interconnected. I think everyone just kind of needs to sort of take a breath, get over the panic really of the last 24 hours and see if we can move forward together in lockstep.
Laura, can I just drill down on one thing you said about Hamas still controlling 85% of Gaza? What do you think the people of Gaza want to see happen with their future and the future leadership that will eventually come into place if it is not Hamas? And also the strength of Hamas right now. Obviously, Gaza has been decimated and Hamas has been crippled. But is there still some flicker of strength still left in that terror organization?
Look, there's a lot of terror and intimidation left in that organization, which is why it's so important to take their weapons away. I've been to Gaza many times over the decades, and I've seen how the people can live without Hamas. I've also seen an alternate authority where you had Hamas suicide bombers in prison by Palestinians. They were able to assert their authority in the past, and I think we can get there again today. I remember, in the 90s and the early 2000s, Palestinians in Gaza was talking about Hamas as the crazies. And they would say every society has their crazies and ours are Hamas.
Yeah.
Laura, I love the fact that you mentioned Donald Trump shining sunlight on the situation. And then literally our video showed a picture of Emmanuel Macron in sunglasses. The visual was absolutely striking. I want to get your thoughts on this. Speaking of EU leaders, they're holding an emergency summit today after President Trump says he reached a Greenland deal framework with NATO. Listen.
It's a deal that people jumped at. Really fantastic for the USA. Gets everything we wanted, including especially real national security. What happens is people are out there and they're working it right now. They're working the details of the deal, but it's what's called an infinite deal.
But Laura, there is an article currently on Politico that is absolutely stunning, at least to me. Maybe I'm naive with what I think the world thinks of our president, but the globalist elite who run Europe, this is in this article, say they feel betrayed, with one saying, and I want to get this quote right, their American dream is dead. But isn't President Trump simply ending the European freeloading that's been going on since World War II, since April of 1945, while simultaneously making both the U.S. and those very European leaders in their countries way more safe?
Well, I think that the U.S. approach is that times are changing and we need to evolve as well. The U.S. said to the UN in December, you need to adapt, shrink, or die. And I think that sounds harsh, but the point is to sort of have us all be stronger as we step forward with the new challenges ahead. I think that this Board of Peace is going to function a little bit like a Mar-a-Lago for world leaders in the best sense. It's $1 billion as an initiation fee, but then you come in, you're leaner, you're meaner, and you're streamlined to actually achieve some results. I think that Trump is really trying to kind of flush out kind of the bloat and the old ways and carve a path to success. It's hard to imagine that this is born out of the rubble of Gaza, where there is so much destruction. But in some sense, it makes sense if you think about how the UN and a lot of our multilateral institutions really gained strength in the rubble of World War II. So we're having a new beginning today, and we'll sign the agreement and go forward.
That's a great point. It very well could be a new beginning, and we're all about to see it unfold in minutes from now. Laura, thank you so much for joining us. Middle East analyst Laura Blumenfeld, we appreciate you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.